Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
It's football season, Coach. That's what's up.
It
Finally,
is.
I have been in OU Stadium. I watched a game, drank too many pints of beer. I remember most of the game. And now it's our official week one, and we get to play a game this week. So it is football season.
Yeah, we had our first game and came up short, but it's underway, and we got to see the finished product on the field and start to see where we need to pull levers and make adjustments and get better. So yeah, we're in season now, making those decisions. And also, the only thing is, I am excited. Obviously, this week we have a game. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for next week. I think. Yeah, it should be next week for sure. It should be, because at least our opponent, because we played 0 week, so this is our opponent's first game this week.
Right.
So I'm so sick of trying to come up with game plans based off of scrimmage film.
Yeah.
Their jersey numbers aren't going to be the same. They're hiding stuff because, and it's just, let me see what you're going to do. Like, who are you? So, we can survive. Like, I feel like I'm glad that I'm not like a double wing or a wing T coach who gets gimmicks every week, because it's just like, at least I know kind of what I'm going to get. Now, that said, I know for sure that like that's a huge advantage for those guys, especially after they've done it for a while, is like, because you throw the gimmick out, they've seen it and they're like, oh, here we go. This is because it's probably broken. Right. But yeah, I'm ready to do some studying of actual game film to get ready. But we got one more this week before that'll happen.
We got lucky, and we're in the same position as your opponent this week, as we did not. Or actually, yeah, we didn't have a game 0 and a 0 week, and they did. Our opponent did. And luckily, there are week 1 and week 2 opponents played each other, so we very quickly have tape on our first 2 opponents, and we can kind of go to work. But yeah, I mean, that is an advantage. It seems like a lot of defenses, obviously we're both on the offensive side now, so a lot of them seem to like they show their true identity from what I can tell. Now their blitz rates may be different, or they're going to add a schemed up blitz here and there, but you start looking at run fits, who's in charge of what, who's
sure. Yeah, no, for the most part,
can get the base stuff.
Yeah. So you just can't get blitzes will change, but more so it's the numbers, the jersey numbers, and who to go after, and when you start to look at matchups and you start to look at numbers as far as our best guys on your worst guys and that kind of stuff. And we're never going to know everything. Like, what do they do with a tight end wing? What do they do with a 3x1? What do they do with a tray? What do they do with all that kind of stuff? What do they do with quads? What do they do with unbalanced? We won't know all of that, especially in a week 1 or week 2. There's just no way that the other team has done all of that. There's also things that we won't know just because film is done. Assuming film is done correctly, and assuming the other team wasn't completely out of whack, is like, how do they handle tempo? How do they handle, those kinds of things? We, unless we just see them misaligned over and over again, we don't really know that kind of stuff. So, we don't ever get the whole picture unless you have a big enough staff where somebody can go be in person. Once you're in season, somebody can go be in person and see the real deal, and you get the film and all that sort of stuff. But we're always kind of guessing, like, is this going to work? Is this going to, is this going to be the picture that we get? So we always go in, and you always go with the plan, plan A and plan B. And a lot of times this is the formation we think will break what they do or put us in the best position to run play number 1. This is play number 2. If we're wrong about play number 1, play number 2 should be open.
Right.
If we're wrong about play number 2, play number 3 should be open. If we're wrong about all 3 of those, we will not be running that formation anymore during this game. And that's kind of how we go about it. Is like, if this formation doesn't open up what we think it does, that's outside of our base stuff, but that's kind of the thought process with it.
Yeah, no, that's it. I'm pretty excited this year. I'm learning a whole new way of breaking down film. Obviously, I put a lot of time and effort this spring into kind of getting better at it. So it's nice to finally get to use it, because you can only read about something so long before you got to go out and get your hands dirty, right? Like, Lord have mercy. So it's been good. Absolutely a blast that the season is back. Hate that you guys fell short, man. But like, our schedule, there's a good chance we go 0-3, right? We scheduled, I think, last year's state champion, a team that they beat out, And then the other one is kind of the off, but we're a whole new coaching staff. Like the kids are going from flex bone to what is a forward pass. and then we're going to go play these really good teams that are really well coached. So I think in that we have, non-district games. I know you kind of do the weird playoff points and everything counts. But
everything counts for us.
We get 3 really tune-up games, which you need to win one for confidence in your system and your coaching staff, your players. But I mean, to be honest, they don't matter. So we can get to go out and fine-tune things. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm pretty excited about it. Let's pay the bills, and then we will get into our topic of the evening.
Yeah, you can go to JoeDanielFootball.com and get 40 Coach Simple rules for football coaches that want to win more games. It's got everything from our Coach Simple philosophy, the background of that. It's got things like drill planning, keys to planning your football drills, offensive and defensive tactics and strategies, and our non-negotiables for every position. So you can check that out. It's 40 Coach Simple rules for football coaches that want to win more games. And I think you'll find something in there that's going to help you win a game for sure. And it doesn't cost anything. You just go over to JoeDanielFootball.com/rules, RULES, and put in your email address. It'll be sent right out to your inbox. So check it out at JoeDanielFootball.com/rules.
Perfect. I want to quickly talk about Patreon. Jump over to patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting. I've been adding to the people that I'm getting to consult with, and it's been a lot of fun. I've had a blast doing it. And more than anything, we're seeing results on film now. So it's good to give your advice and then watch it kind of come back in fruition. So if you're looking for a little help, holler at me. We'll see what we can talk about. Sweet. Question 1 here. So tonight we're going to talk about tags, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. I know you defensive guys have got your tags as well, but offensively, we tend to get to mix things up and move around, and you can be who you are and change a whole bunch of stuff around your core philosophies and still be true to yourself and find more success, in my opinion and my experience. And so we're going to talk tonight how we kind of do that, the way that Joe does it, the way that I'm doing it this year. And so we're just going to talk all about tags. So I guess question 1, Joe, has to be, what are tags?
Just in general, when we talk about tags, it's a way to create new plays without creating new plays. And so when we talk about tags, it's taking your base plays, the base things that you do, base plays, base formations as well, and then adding a word or a number or however you do it, but usually adding a word onto the play call that now changes the look, changes whether it's, a play can change who is doing the blocking. It can change a route. It can change a pass concept. It can change a direction. It can change a formation. It can change, motion. Most motions are simple tags. Motions and shifts are probably the most well-known tags, although I would say for sure, just based on a lot of games that I see, I would say that motions and tags are some of the most underused. Motions and shifts are some of the most underused tags, especially shifts. But, they're tags for your offense to create a new look without creating a new play. And we always talk about, players, not plays, and keep it simple. And if we have a good foundation, we can take those core plays and we can tag them. I remember we did our 3-step quick game podcast a while back, and we talked about how to build that quick game passing attack and how you could, take a simple concept like whether it's hitch seam, or we used to be hitch seam, now we're all hitch as our base core passing concept. So it's all hitch. And if we tag up on that, it's all verts, 4 verts. And if we tag HY out on that, it's now an up and an out, which is a bench concept and a good quarters beater. If we tag a hitch in a corner, so if we tag HY corner, it's now a smash concept. So with that one, and the play call itself is still the same thing, but then we've added tags onto it to create, essentially some of the most effective passing concepts. And again, we use mirrored concepts, so that's part of it. Oh, and we can tag HY cross, and it essentially looks like a mesh. That gives you at least the crossing routes. So it's a man beater. So we can take that all hitch concept, which is really a cover 3 beater for the most part, or a cover 1 beater. Hitch seam, same way. Cover 3, cover 1 beater. We can go 4 verts, which is another cover 3 beater, but instead of an underneath passing, it's now a deeper passing game. We can tag that with an HY out, which now becomes a quarters beater. We can tag that with an HY corner, which now becomes a cover 2 beater. We can tag that with a HY cross, which now becomes a man beater. And of course, then we can do that exact same thing, and we can run it out of a different formation. So I could run that out of what we would call a trick 1 formation. And now the Z and the Y are the inside guys. So we can do all those exact same things, but different personnel. And by changing the formation, we can run now all of those things, but we can run an HZ or a ZY cross, and we can run a ZY out. And so, we can do all of those things now with a different type of athlete running. Obviously the Z is a very different type of athlete than the Y, the tight end. Right. So, and in that way, you've taken one passing concept and you've built an entire offense around it, an entire passing attack around it. And you built it with the ability to get it to multiple guys. And then, we talk about, and again, that I'm going into a lot of stuff here, but just the example of the way we could use it is then like, okay, now I want my X to be the guy running the corner route because he's more of a down the field guy. So I want to run the smash concept, but I want it to be a corner route. So I could run our formation would be trick 1. So I could go trick 1, either trick 1 swap, or I could, give it more specific. I could go trick 1 X swap, or I could go trick 1 XZ swap. So the X and the Z are swapping. I can tag it that way. So I could trick 1 XZ swap, 60 X corner. Now that's a long play call, and I might one word that play call. But the understanding of all of that, I could put that on a wristband, and I could say, this is what we're running. So as a coach, sometimes you go, that's a lot of word, that's too much wording, but it is very descriptive. The kids are getting told exactly what to do, but at least as a coach, I know these are all tags that are available to me. And now I can have my X run the corner route. And then I can do other things. Like I want the X to be on the line of scrimmage. So I can go XZ swap, again, I don't want to do all this XZ swap. Well, I shouldn't have to tell him he's on. He's always on. So, but I'm just inverting them. We're calling them XZ invert or XZ swap, XZ, whatever. And I could make a tag so that the inside guy is on or the outside guy is on or whatever I want. And again, I'm able to just create an entire, and then I can go to our slant concept and I can do the exact same thing. And I can go to our curl concept and I can do a pretty good amount with it. And I can go to the smash concept and I can just go on and create all of these things. I go to our slant concept and I can run slant and I can run slant flat and I can run slant wheel and I can run slant go and I can run slant corner, and you can do all of these things and just start creating without adding new plays.
Yeah, man, a lot of what you said right there is exactly how I would define tags. And honestly, 2-3 years ago, I wouldn't have even known what a tag was. I was just under different leadership and not that really caught up in what you do with an offense. So I'm, being defensive minded, and I didn't think about things that way. And once I started seeing things more conceptually, which to me was a huge speed bump in football coaching, but I kind of realized everything in our offense is very modular. So that's kind of how I define tags, is like I'm taking everything that we do and I'm making it all just another piece of a machine. And so you talked about motions. Jet, right? Jet motion. Right. Running full speed across the field is a module to me. I don't need to hand it off every time. I can hand it off. I can let him run by and fake it. I can read and maybe give it to him, maybe don't. I can put him in front of or behind the quarterback. I can get him halfway here and turn him around. So you start getting into all these very small changes you can make. But one of the biggest things to that is like I can use with outside zone, inside zone, power, counter, buck, duo, a pass play, right? And so that's what I mean by it's modulars. It doesn't matter what play I call, I can attach jet to it just to get another thing. Well, once you perceive football that way, you can start doing that with a lot of different things. Condensing a formation. For us, a condense is just a tag. It just tells our kids everybody will be down on the in-man line of scrimmage. So now I can be trips left, doubles or whatever you guys want to call your base 2x2 look. I can be, Y off trips, Y on trips, and I can use this one tag and it just brings everybody in nice and tight. And so I have started putting all of the pieces together to take any piece of my offense and use it with any other piece of my offense. Very rarely does it not fit right. Football is such a perfect sport because those things you can do. You just went through all of the pass stuff, right? You can do those out of doubles, triples, single. It doesn't matter, right? Pro formation. No matter who's there. Just sitting here writing down some notes, I was actually thinking about how your H-back numbering system is just a tag.
Yeah.
So we break ours down into like formation adjustments. How am I going to adjust this formation? We don't even carry a 2-back formation. There's no such thing to us. We run our word for trips right. And then we have a tag that brings the nearest wide receiver into the backfield to be the second back.
Right.
We actually have 2 tags that do that because one gives him his rules if he had been at receiver, and one changes his rules to carry the rock. So I think once you make football modular, you explode your playbook opportunities, but you're not installing very much. We even buck sweep to us is just a tag. We just tag power, counter, inside zone, outside zone, whatever we want to have. And then we have a tag that tells both guards to pull, kick, pull, wrap. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Right. But weirdly enough, you run outside zone and then bring a couple guards around the end. It works because we still have covered and uncovered rules and stuff. But anyway, so yeah, tags to me are just turning everything you do in offense into a very modular idea and then throwing them together at random to create a whole variety of an offensive scheme. Real quick before we move on, I'll talk about athletic speed and movement. If you have not already, guys, I know it's in season. We just talked about this is week 1, which means this comes out in 2-ish weeks. So you're going to be a third of the way through your season. But athleticspeedandmovement.com, we have an in-season plan that, especially if you're a playoff team, will get you faster and more prepared for those playoff games. It'll help anybody. Just the first couple of weeks, you're not going to see a speed improvement. I don't think the guys are getting used to doing it. But after that, you start getting that muscle memory and your kids are just going to run faster.
It's about 5 weeks. You start to really see the impact.
There you go. 5 weeks. I think more so in the kids who are kind of gangly, don't know where their body is. They grew a lot last summer. That might be your juniors, might be your seniors, maybe some of them younger ones. The kids who just don't have body awareness yet, it's going to teach them where it is and how to run properly. But it helps everyone. Your linemen, your H-backs, your X, Y, Z, whatever you're calling your people, your quarterback. Everybody gets help. Athletic Speed Movement. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. Check that out today. Let's go to part 2 here. And why do we need to use tags? And I'm going to still go here. The reason we use tags is to simplify everything for the kids. Number 1, I felt like there was a ton of wasted time in high school football on the practice field, right? We're going over this play. We're going over this play again and again, and everybody's running the same crap. When I started using tags, I started finding ways that everyone could be learning 2 or 3 tags at a time, how they fit together, how they oppose each other, what does one accomplish, how does it work and nestle in with all the rest of the things we're doing around that player. So that was the first thing. But like I said, if I want to run buck sweep, I don't have to put in another play. Joe, you said that to kind of get us started tonight. You're adding to your offense without putting in a play. All right, so we're just going to say our outside zone call, or maybe you want to run it off your power call. And then I'm going to give this tag that gets us to buck sweep. I've not changed anything for essentially 9 guys. 9 guys are going to continue doing the same thing. 2 guys got to change. And so that's where tags, I think, is beneficial because I put in a whole new play. I did it using the same base blocking rules up front because I'm big on rules blocking rules for your O-line as well and keeping them as similar as possible. But to a defense, I now carry another play. And they have to go out and practice against another play where I can just tag it up. Inside zone, right? You think about all the ways you can run inside zone. We carry a H-back most of the time. And so if I want to hit split zone, that's just a tag. So we can block it all normal, kind of like outside zone. H-back stays on his side. We can pre-motion him and just let him pick up that backside end. Or I can throw off tendencies and give him a tag to run across the O-line and split block, or, like you would on split zone. We also have ways to get him to run right by that guy, which on inside zone, maybe that's not exactly what you want to do. You can RPO it, which is where we like that. I can run him by him. Now he's in an arrow for an RPO. But if you think about doing it to the front side of power counter, sometimes he's the kick guy, and sometimes he just makes the kick guy get really wide because he's going to work out towards the guy running by him. So these just 2 tags, and now I'm adding that with multiple run plays, power, counter, inside, outside zone, and I've changed my 4 base run plays and made it, well, I guess 12 different plays because I can either kick that dude or miss him, plus the base version of the play. So I've found that it keeps things really simple for the kids. Each player is going to learn a few tags at their position. Some of them can even play more positions because, hey, that tag that we used over there, we're just going to use it here. You learn one play, and now I can just tag it up. So all the additional stuff we want to teach them, they're already learning it as a tag anyway. We've even thrown like our RPOs. You talked about the plays. We're a big full field concept, so we're running kind of like air raid concepts. Really ugly. I think of myself as like Lincoln Riley is the guy that I look up to. Like, how does he run offense? GT counter, GH counter, and then air raid concepts. And man, they really mesh together well too. But we can tag that up too, right? So yes, I have Y cross on, but if I see an opening, if I see space out there because of their alignment, whatever, hey, I can just throw a tag on, and now we're hitting that open spot with a different route. But the other 11 or the other 10 kids didn't do anything different. So once again, I've put in one play, and I can tag a ton. And Joe, you mentioned that earlier about all the different ways you can tag it. So simplicity for the kids is the number one reason I think using tags. You talked about expansion of the playbook, and I'm sure you'll mention more of that too. But the kids go out and learn. I think I carried 3 pass plays and 4 run plays. They had to learn 7 plays left and right, and then 3 tags apiece. And it explodes.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of things, and there's a lot of places that you can use tags. This is excessive for high school, but I remember he was the offensive line coach, and I think he was named for Texas at the time, speaking at Glazier Clinic. And I've heard defensive coaches say this about coverages too, and they'd be like, we have 23 different pass protections. And in my head, I go, that's stupid. And it is excessive for most high schools, and it is unnecessary. But it was essentially tags on different things now, some of this I thought with an offensive line, my thought was like, they should just be making these. I didn't, and some of them weren't. He was like, we have 23 different protections, but this is like, it was like a call, right? They're making a call in that situation because ultimately there's man protection, there's half man, half slide, there's slide protection. We start to run out of ideas. We can turn back and all this sort of stuff, but they were, different calls and checks, but they could do calls and checks with, essentially offensive line calls are often checks, are quote unquote tags. Because if I just said everybody's going to down block, that's one thing. But if I said, look, if they're here, we're going to combo tackle tight end. If they're here, we're going to combo guard tackle. If they're here, we're going to, combo center guard, whatever it is. And I have those. So that improves our ability to block without just saying block somebody, block the man in front of you, block down, step inside, that kind of thing. That's kind of a very simplistic approach to blocking. If we take another thing, and I'll go to the power concept that you had. So if we call, power right, so we have in our terminology 24 is power right, or 4 is the power scheme for power, the block down, kick out, roll to wrap to the backer kind of thing. Like you said, we could tag that, and we do tag that. So we go 24, and that's just your basic power. We go 24 counter, that just swaps the G and the H. And so when we change the H alignment, as you said, with a number. So instead of it being a 3, it might be a 2 alignment. So he's starting on the left and he's going to be behind the guard. The guard's going to kick out and he's going to wrap. So that's a tag. Then we could tag it with a GT. So maybe I want to put the H out in the slot and I want the guard and tackle to pull and run the counter. So if I tag it with GT, the G is kicking out and the T, the tackle, is wrapping. I've done it with where I didn't want to pull anybody. And so I would put the Y and the H in the backfield and they would stand behind the guards and we would call YH counter if we wanted to go one direction, or HY counter if we wanted to go the other way. We would just tag a YHY, 24 HY meant the H was going to kick out and the Y was going to be second. And 24 YH meant the Y was going to kick out and the H was going to be second. Of course, we would have all that in there. But then you go from there and you say, okay, there's buck sweep. So what's a buck sweep? Well, buck sweep is both guards. We could tag that, and I'll get into why we even care about this because we don't run buck sweep, but we could tag it 24 buck, and that would mean it's going to be both guys. We could use a different name. We could use a double G word or something like that, and it's going to be both guards. We could call it 24 GG. I don't care. So we go 24 GG. All right, it's both guys, both guards, and that's going to run. That's going to change the blocking scheme. We can do it 24 OT, which is how we ran a draw with the tackle. It's essentially a dart play. All of this is 24, the front side down, the back side, the tackle pulled, and then we ran it with a little bit of a draw action to give the tackle time to clear. So that, was a whole different version of that. We can go, of course, we can do everything else. We can go 24 read, which is actually we'll go 14 read, which would be power read. We can go 24 read, which is a different version of power read that we run from pistol instead of gun. And the quarterback is the outside guy instead of the running back. The running back runs the normal path and the quarterback reads and pulls outside. So those are tags that we can use. Of course, we could tag it different if we wanted to. We can tag RPOs onto it as always. But I go back to the 24 buck, what we use that for. We use that for film tagging. We don't run buck. And the only reason that I know that we could do that is because we do it when we play a team that runs buck, and I tag the film as 24 buck. And when I explain to our players their best play, we don't have to go, they run buck sweep. It's from this antiquated wing T garbage that nobody runs anymore. And you don't really need to, but this is buck sweep. Like coaches love to, is this buck sweep? I go, this is R24, but they use the guards instead of a guard and an H-back. So they do it differently. And, instead of the guard staying, the fullback might fill for him or whatever, or maybe they just down it or whatever it is that they do. And so that tells our kids who play both ways, all of our kids play both ways, hey, what gives you trouble as a defensive, as a guard, what gives you trouble when you're trying to kick out? Oh, when they squeeze. Okay, now you're a defensive end. How do you beat this play? So we can use it on the defensive side too. We can also take that, we can tag it so that the coaches can all speak in the same language. So when I have a young coach who doesn't know anything but our offensive system and I go, this is buck sweep, and he goes, what the frick is a buck sweep? I don't have to sit there and explain it to him. I go, this is 24, but they use two guards instead of an H-back and a guard to kick out. They use the front side and the backside guard instead of the H-back on the front side and the backside guard. Okay. And the aiming point may be a little different and all that sort of stuff, but ultimately it's down, kick out, and wrap. And so that gets us to where we want to go. Same thing if I wanted to do a pen and pull where they're pulling the guard. They're going to block down and they're going to pull the guard. Well, what are they doing? Well, it's basically a pen and pull. And but it's a version of 24. So we get our guys to understand, that the ball is not, it's not one of the things that we get with buck sweep. If we say buck sweep, where does everybody think buck sweep's going? The word sweep indicates that it's going to the sideline, right, to the numbers, but buck sweep has a kick out and it's supposed to come inside of that. It's wider because you have the tackle tight end usually, but it just depends in a traditional wing team. But now I can also go and run that buck sweep, and I can tell our scout team, you're not running our opponent's offense, and this is a waste of your time. Because again, all of our guys play both ways and all that sort of stuff. So you're not running the other team's offense. You're running a different version of our offense. And I can prove it to you because this play is called 24. What's 24? Okay, got it. Okay, this play is 24 GT. We don't run GT counter. We don't pull the guard and the tackle, but it's 24 GT. They just get to that place differently. It's 24 buck. It's 24 counter. It's 24 whatever. It's 24 read, 14 read. So what are they doing? Well, they're going to read that guy, and we're not going to have an H-back kick him out. So don't touch him. Just run your normal 24. And we can run, because we don't run that currently. So we can run another team's offense, and we can do it in a way that we don't have to explain every play. I like to use wristbands, but we don't have to explain every play to them. We can just say, look, you're doing what you do on 24. You're doing what you do on 24. You're doing what you do on 24. You're doing what the H-back normally does on 24. And you're kicking out. And so it's a little bit different that way. But everybody else is down blocking. Okay. Every offense down blocks. We down block. Everybody, if it's a zone play, we zone. If it's a down, we down. If it's a whatever. So we use tags in that way. I will use tags with formations extensively so that we can make the formation that we want be in our system with Scout Team. And what that does, by the way, is once I can create the opponent's formation with our system, I can then steal it the next week if I want to. That's so right. If I want to line up in double wing, I know that double wing is, I haven't done it in a while, but it's essentially Pro 2 XZ tight. And it's just telling everybody to be tight, be down on lines, Pro 2 XZ tight. And I put those guys all down there, and then we can line up in a double wing formation. And okay, so now next week I want to run some play that we have out of a double wing formation. I have that tag available, that XC tight. So it really can, not only can expand your offense, it expands your ability to communicate with everybody and to get better scout team work, to get more committed scout team work, because nobody wants to go down there and run the plays on the card, and they don't know what the lines mean. The lines don't tell them anything, but they will get significantly better if they're running our offense every single day, whether they are a starting offensive lineman who doesn't play defense, but our numbers mean that everybody has to be on both sides, has to be on the field at one time, or if it's a backup offensive lineman who's also a backup defensive lineman. And so, he's always running everybody else's stuff, but he's always running our stuff.
That's right.
At the same time.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed, so obviously I jumped like feet first into the system back in like December and committed myself to learning it. And when the very first practice clips and really the stuff that's constantly on Twitter, like there's always football on Twitter, you just watch a play and you're like, oh, we don't carry that, but we have that.
Right? We can do that. Yeah.
You see, Brent Dearman was the first one I watched on trying to go like second and third echelon RPOs. And you're like, oh, that's just outside zone read with a miss by your H, right? And now he's up the field, and now you're just throwing that instead. And you're like, oh, no, I literally already have this. It's not, the kids already know it even. I just haven't put it together in that order yet.
Right.
And so I think, once again, when you can simplify football for the kids, you can get very creative, and you're not going to blow their mind because they've already ran that. They just, it really, the limitation is your creative skills, right? That becomes a limitation on your offense. Last part here is, how can we start using tags in our offense today?
Oh, I think it's exactly, where I would start is if you haven't done it at all, I wouldn't start necessarily with tagging, hey, just go into your playbook and start throwing stuff in there. I would first take your existing system, and listen, it is very possible that your existing system is not built with this in mind and will not function this way, which is just going to tell you a need to look at our system. You mentioned, Daniel, about how easy it is to create your formations, to create, again, go to Pro 2. We have 3 formations, 6, but they're 3 run right and left.
Right.
We have Pro and Plow. We have Trick and Tilt, which is Pro and Plow is your normal Pro, tight end to the right or tight end to the left. Plow is tight end to the left. Trick and Tilt is twins to the right or twins to the left, and the tight end goes the other way. So the X and the Z to the right, X and the Z to the left, tight end the other way. And then we have R and L, which used to be called Denver and Dallas, and they are just or Denver and Detroit, or Detroit and Dallas. We've changed it sometimes, but they are Pro and Plow, but with the Y split out. And the way that we can then take those and then create anything that we want with the H-back alignment. So if I go pro, I can go pro 1, and that's doubles. That's your 11 personnel, twins to the left and tight end. I can go pro 2, and that's a tight end to the right and a wing to the left. I can go pro 3, and that's a tight end wing tray formation with tight end wing with the Z, so it's a trips formation. And I can go pro 4, and that's a normal tray formation. So just by combining those 1, 2, 3, and then we actually have other tags for the H-back, so we can go pro 0, that's pro I. We can go pro strong or pro weak, and that is offset I to the tight end or away from the tight end. We can go pro far or pro near, and that's a far or a near formation with the H-back offset either to or away from the tight end. So all of those things are available just with H-back tags, and you could run an entire offense out of pro and plow, and then you can create so many things. So where I would start with it is I would start by the first thing I would look at is, can my system do this? And your system doesn't have to be able to do this, but I think it's nice. I like our ability to literally put anybody anywhere. We're not constrained by formations. And I'll just tell you that we've gone a full other step with this, with we got Thad Wells, and we mentioned that things did not work out week 1. But at one point, we probably had half the team cramping and lost a couple players too. And so I had offensive linemen playing Y and H. I had guys playing positions they had never played before. I played all of our offensive linemen, and all of them played at least 20 snaps. We had 9, and they all played at least 20 snaps, some of them at Y and H. Our receivers were playing whatever was there. Our running backs were the only ones that survived, and quarterbacks that were able to play. But because we had that, they could just look at the band and go, they weren't perfect, but I can at least look at the little blue dot and go, he's to the right and he's on the line of scrimmage or off the line of scrimmage. I can get there. So that actually added another element where, just as an example, we have a very dynamic receiver. We would be limited by him being the X receiver all of the time, but I can just go, you're the blue guy, and now he's the tight end. And that opens up a whole different deal, because what's their game plan? Their game plan is double the X receiver. That was the game plan this week. They were going to double the X receiver, or double him. Well, they don't have a plan. Now, we didn't have this available to us because he was also cramping. But somebody somewhere along the way is not going to have a plan for him being in the backfield or in the slot or at tight end. So that opens up even more, that you may not have to change your system, but just change the way that you call and communicate plays. That opened up more of the ability to tag, because it's not really a tag now. It's just a different line or a different spot. So the formation tags become the blue dot being a different spot, and the route tags become the blue dot having a different line drawn above him, or, whatever it is. And you just have to teach them how to read those things. So it's because it's a tiny little square. So all the information can't be there. You have to teach them how to decipher the information that's there. Like, we have pictures for, doing this and doing that. Like, for example, we have a play where our offensive line cut blocks. Well, it's got a pair of scissors, so that they know that this is where you cut. So we've gone to using tags in that way, and that's a whole different deal. But what I would look at, so there's my plug for that system. I don't get anything from that, but also you can take that and you can run your scout team off of that. It takes time investment, but you can run your scout team off of that. Funny thing, I'll just mention, because he's still a very high-level football coach today, but I worked with a guy who, when he was very young and very new to football, but very hard worker. And I remember that he would give our defensive coordinator, he would break down the offense. And this is at a place where all the film was pooled together. So we had, by the end of the season, we've got 10 games on the team that we're playing. And we would get like 48-page reports of every pass that they had run. And, well, they ran this one 6 times, and then they ran this one 3 times, and they ran this one twice. And it's like, look, they didn't install 48 different concepts this season. No. You need to put these into buckets. And it was like, what do you mean? It's like, look, if 3 of the routes are the same and one of them changed, that's a tag. And it's the same kind of thing. Like, what do you mean tags? Well, it's a tag. Like, they don't have a word for this. They don't have 48 words or numbers. I mean, even if you run the old, or not the, like, I guess, I think Coriel ran the system with the numbers, right? Where it's a
air raid. Is that what you're talking about?
Not the air raid. The route concepts were numbered. So a 9 route is a go route.
Oh, yeah, the old route tree. Yeah.
Route tree. Right. But some teams would route tree it right to left or left to right or whatever it is. And so you would have a 979 or something like that. Right. And it's like, look, even that's just tags. That's just what the reality is. They didn't just, and I think coaches who learn the route tree would be like throwing random numbers together. And it's like, no, listen. There were like 5 base number combinations.
Yep.
And then occasional number changes, or when you ran out of numbers, you would put a tag on it. Like, there wasn't a number. There's probably not a number for a wheel, but some different route trees did. But like, if you didn't want to mess with that, you would just say wheel. But those were ways to tag it. So like, but ultimately, it's like, even if you were going to use that, you wouldn't break them all out into 979, 973, 971, 970. It's like, no. These are all 979, but the last guy's doing something different. And I'm just using random numbers. I don't know what 979 is. I think 7's a post, or 7's a corner route, 8's a post, I think.
Yeah, even in, odd out, right?
Yeah. And
you're going to vert in a corner into the same position.
That's cool. So yeah, like, going back to what I was saying, I would start, and I would probably start with formations, but I would see, like, look at your opponent, or look at an opponent and just be like, and maybe you start with an opponent who's kind of similar to you, right? Like, don't start with your double wing opponent if you're an air raid, but can I get into those formations using tags? Could I create a play that I like with a tag and start to experiment with, could I just, I think, and since we're in season, the very first thing that you do is you just say, we're not installing any new plays. If we have the 5-minute rule, if it's going to take more than one 5-minute period, so our periods are 5 minutes long in practice. If it's going to take more than a 5-minute period to install this, don't do it. That will force you to learn to use tags.
Yep.
Because you go, I really like this. Like you said, I really like this. This is cool. If you want to just add RPOs, like, that's great. You can't suddenly change your offense to some RPO system, but you can add a tag that tells one receiver to run a bubble, like, really simple, and tells the quarterback, check to see if that bubble's open before you hand it off.
Yeah.
And like, that's a very simple pre-snap tag. Like, the simplest tag that we ever used is, we run outside zone, and we usually run it to the tight end. So the X receiver's on the backside. We will often run it to the tight end and wing. And so the X receiver is by himself on the backside. And we would run it from pistol. So we couldn't get in and ride outside zone and look at the X receiver. So it was a pre-snap tag. And what happened on the outside zone was, we would just tag look. And all it did was, it told the X receiver to open his inside foot and look at the quarterback. And it told the quarterback to look at the X receiver before the snap. And if the guy over top of the X receiver, now the X receiver was an all-state receiver. If the guy over top of the X receiver is 8 yards off, catch the snap and throw it to him. Just throw it to him. And because it was outside zone going the opposite direction, you didn't have to worry about the R getting in the way. There was no mesh or anything. It was just a catch and throw, because the R was going to run behind him. And, I had to teach the R to not think that he didn't get the handoff. The R would stop and be like, oh my God, I went the wrong way. It's like, okay, there's a look tag on it. Just keep running. Yeah. But that's that's a very simple tag, is to just, if you play somebody that plays off coverage, just say, look, just add a look tag. That'd be a really simple way. It's a really simple way to add a pre-snap RPO. It's a really simple way to use a tag, and very successful if you have a good receiver out there.
Yep, you kind of took all the easy ones on how you can start adding them into your offense. I think formations is a big one. Can I, without adding a new formation for 11 kids to learn, can I move any person in my look? I'm talking about, can I add tackle over? Can I add a fullback? Can I add an H-back, a Y? Can I put those kids anywhere I want them right now without putting in a new formation? Because you talked about like Pro 2 versus Pro 3. Right now, you've went 2x2 to 3x1. Now you've got a tight end wing combo over there that they have to deal with. So that's amazing. And I think if you find that you can't do that, I cannot, without installing a new formation, put my H-back in the backfield as like a fullback, or put him in split gun. I don't know. Can I get both of my on the ball receivers to be on the same side of the ball so that when I do have a split out, he can go in motion to extra blockers? If you can't do that, it's time to start thinking about tags. How can I say one word, and no matter what formation I'm in, trips, I'm in 2x2, I'm in whatever you guys call 2x2 with an H-back, with a tight end. How can I get around and designate it be an exact kid? Not just, oh, my inside receiver. Sure, I can go from doubles to trips. That's fine. But how can you get, like you said, Joe, how can you get your all-state X, who's always on the left in your offense, maybe, and get him on the right,
he's always on,
where he can catch a ball, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't do those things, it's time to start thinking about tags. And like you said, Joe, without adding a whole new formation.
It's really, I think, a really good way to think about it is if you understand the Coach Simple philosophy concept that we talk about. If you understand that, and yet you feel that your offensive system limits your creativity or your ability to do things without overcomplicating things, then tags are your answer. And again, you may have to adjust the way that your system is to do that. Most of the time you can do it. We came from Coach Mountjoy's system, and he can create we name it differently, but he could create all of these things too. Now he didn't use much without a tight end, at least not when like a core thing. And so there would just be one word you would have to add, but we did it a little bit differently. And I don't actually know where our system came from, where that formation deal came from, but it's been great for us. Just, you shouldn't be constrained by your offense. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be constrained by your offense, technically constrained by it, right? You shouldn't be able to not call something or not run something. But you can definitely tell somebody that we don't do that. Like, we don't run buck sweep. Like, I don't coach buck sweep. I don't know buck sweep. I don't run buck sweep. I don't want to run buck sweep. Looks cool. No, thank you. I've got things that accomplish that for me. But I could. I'm not constrained where I can't run it. And I think that's an important distinction.
I think RPOs is another place you can definitely start. And I think of it this way, and this is how I conceptualize in my mind. If I'm putting Kenny kind of in my realm, my bubble, my people made famous the put number 2 receiver on a slant, read the inside linebacker to that side. It's on the back side of your play. When he crashes to go hit, he follows his guard, right? His guard pulls, attach it to any gap scheme. I'm going to throw the ball to that receiver. I think he called it peak in all the books he sold. We've kept peak for years as I've helped offenses add stuff. Once you can tag peak to any receiver is where it really kind of opens up that concept of tags. If I can get an H-back to run peak, because everybody on the team knows that peak means you run right behind the backside inside linebacker and look for the daggum football. Now you're going places. And so that's kind of where the simplicity comes from and the concept. And I'm still just changing. Hey, I'm running outside zone weak, and I'm in 2x2 with an H-back. I'm going to run outside zone away from my H-back. Is that the most sound thing to do? Probably not, right? Because we like to have blockers. I guess you can crack block your number 2 on the other side. But if I can tell him H peak, hey, now he knows he's just running right there. I can tag anybody on behind the ball to do that.
And again, you can do that pre-snap or post-snap. Like you said, if you're
right.
So a quick way to do that is you don't have to teach this kid how to do it, you can just say, like, look, at the backers walked up to blitz. You got to have your blitz team. That, high school backers always show it.
Yeah, they do.
Go through your cadence. Like, you'll just know you're throwing it. You don't have to, and that's again a simple way to do it.
Yep. So that's tags. Man, there's a million of them. I feel like you can get carried away. I think, talking about Kenny, his philosophy is like he can RPO any kid he can RPO 11 kids. You don't have to be able to do that. We talked to Lynn Shackelford a couple years ago, and he talked about we had one RPO, and it got him some state championships, right? Just alleviating an issue. So try to use these things to make an issue go away. What problem am I having? Can't get to second level of linebackers. Great, we're going to read one now. That's a tag. Or is it I can't pick up an overhang in my pass pro? I'm just going to tag it to where that side squeezes down, right? Everybody on that side's now just going to be condensed. Run your routes from there. Or maybe just the inside guy condenses. That's a tag for us. Now, I'm really not worried about his route. I wasn't going to throw that route anyway, but I'm tired of getting my quarterback lit up by this outside backer. So tags can kind of come from all over the place. Don't go crazy. Start putting them in, though. I think that you'll find, especially, it's just the way you think about the game. Like I said, you can turn on any video clip of a modern day offense just about and go, we have that play, and I've never talked about it a day in my life. I saw it the first time today, and I can literally install it in a 5-minute period tomorrow. That's when you have the right amount of tags. All right, man, I think we checked all the boxes tonight. It is time for our level up, and I'm going to let you go first, good sir.
Oh, man, where are we right now? I'll tell you what, I just finished a book. I'll have to look up the name of it. I know the name. It's called Buy Back Your Time.
Love it all the time.
Yeah, and it's not anything new for me, but it's really important to, as football coaches, Dan Martell is the author, Buy Back Your Time. And again, it's another book that's written from a, entrepreneur, business owner type of thing. But I think if head football coaches started to look more at this as a business, it would really help you to understand that you're running an organization, a program, not so much football only. Because there's so many things that we do, like fundraising, and there's so many things that we have to do, and we go, well, I have to do this because I'm the head football coach. And a lot of what Buy Back Your Time is about, of course, the concept of buy back your time is pay people to do this. That's from the entrepreneurial, that's from the business side of things. But from the you have an army at your disposal. You don't have to pay them. Your assistant coaches are paid. Your players are there and they're available to you. You have parents who want to help. There's some you don't want to help, but you have parents that want to help and want to help the program, community that wants to help the program, people that will donate things to you, people that will do things for you. We are very much, football coaches very much get overwhelmed, especially this time of year. And so Buy Back Your Time is a book that just kind of reminded me of some of the things. I'll just give you some really, and again, it's about what do you have available to you. This was before I was running a business, but when I was a young football coach, I lived in a cheap one-bed. Now I know that there are no cheap one-bedroom apartments anymore. So I understand where I'm going, where I've already lost all of the young people now, but maybe you're living at home with your parents. I don't know. I had a cheap one-bedroom apartment. I had a full-time job. I didn't spend a lot of money, and I liked doing football and going out, 20, whatever. I like going out, and I like doing football stuff. And at that time, I realized I don't want to do my own laundry. I had to go to a laundromat because I had a cheap one-bedroom apartment. I had to go fold it and all that stuff, and it would just end up in a pile. And I'd have dirty laundry, and I wouldn't have clean stuff. And so, at that time, it was very cheap. I'd have to drop it off, and somebody would do it for me, and I would pick it up, and it was done. And that's not available to everyone. If you got a huge family and all that sort of stuff, that's not available to everyone. But if that's something that you hate doing, get that time back and invest that time in being a better football coach. Invest that time in starting a business on the side, if that's something you're interested in. Obviously, day one, and just the thought process behind all of this is I'm going to go short with it, but and it's a really simple, mowing your lawn, stuff like that maybe you could get a kid in the neighborhood to do. But obviously stuff like that initially costs you money. But if you could invest a couple hours a week that you don't have because you're doing laundry into starting a business or into working on your resume to get a better football coaching job or whatever it is that you want to do, or if you're just completely swamped with work or whatever, whatever it is, getting a certification, something like that. Eventually, that extra amount of money, will pay off. And so you have to look at, and I'm just throwing out a really simple example, but I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to find ways to buy back our time. And again, as a football coach, it's, are you using your assistants to, help you do stuff, or are you just drowning yourself in it, just killing yourself? Learning to delegate. It's really a book about delegation and thought process of where you can delegate. So maybe it's not the perfect delegation book. It's the one that I just read, but finding ways to delegate, finding ways to hand things off.
Time is the only thing you can't get more of, right? Like,
yep,
you legitimately can't. So
yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it's just, you're exactly right. Like, there's no substitute for it. If you can save time to do things that you want to do. And as you get to our point in life, that more and more goes to family and like that, the things where, my kid's only 2, but I'm already like, Jesus, it's been 2 years. And like all the things that are gone, that are no longer and that we've already moved past, and the amount of time that there is for that. That's a big deal to it. Anybody who's a father would probably understand that. Is like, this is a big deal. Like, you don't want to miss, the important things because of something somebody else could have done.
Right.
It's one thing to say like, well, you should get out of coaching so that you can go. Like during the Georgia game, they mentioned Will Muschamp's not coaching; he's an analyst, so that he can see his kid play. Right.
Yeah.
That's a different way of doing it. But maybe you can't get out of what you're doing and go do something else, but you can find ways to.
Yeah, Will Muschamp's made some dollars in his life.
Will Muschamp's cool. He probably doesn't have to go be an analyst, but he has it available to him. The rest of us, like, yeah, there's things that you have to do to get. And again, we can't just be like, well, I'm going to do this so that I don't ever miss a game, but I can prioritize and say,
right.
like,
Prioritize is where it's at.
I need somebody to help me do this because I got a thing.
I think my level up tonight is just health and fitness, and it's 100% because I know we've hit that time of year that it's not at the top of every coach's mind, especially if you have any kind of travel, commute to work every day. I know that I generally eat pretty good, and when I started at Stillwell a couple of years ago, that was an hour drive, hour and 15 each way. Those hot box burritos and pizza pockets got a lot better because I was hungry after practice and I always stop and got them. So sometimes we just make bad decisions because of, whatever it is. But about 3 weeks ago, I guess, 2 weeks ago, I started just counting macros again. And if you don't know how to count macros, there are calculators out there. There are apps. I use MyFitnessPal. I think it's the absolute best app to count macros because anything you put in, it's already in. Someone's put it in the system, and it has an exact breakdown of what is bacon. How much protein, how much fat, how much carbs. Anything you eat on the planet Earth is in there. You can even build recipes. So if you have a favorite goulash recipe and you're like, well, how much is one bowl of that? Well, it has a way to build that recipe and save it. So every time you make it, you'll know how much one serving is and what it's going to cost you. And then, start to kind of share the knowledge on that. I've helped a lot of Army people in the past start counting macros and lose weight because guardsmen especially, but the Army in general, usually targets, like recruiting is very targeted at low income, kind of backwoods type. And so we don't have a good education about that stuff. And then, we all gain weight as we age. And so those soldiers need to maintain a physical fitness to keep their job, to stay in good standing. But they're not any more educated because, well, they've just signed up to be in the Army. That doesn't get you a degree in macronutrients. So I helped a bunch of guys do that, and now I've realized it can really help coaches. So if you have questions, hit me up on that. I think I did a YouTube live on it not too long ago, about maybe 2 weeks ago. But I'm down like 10 pounds and maybe 15 now, and I just feel so much better.
Yeah.
Tonight I meal prepped, so I found a bundle. So I buy the whole chunk of, I'm a New York strip guy. I'm not a I'm not a big ribeye guy. I don't want
Me
all
too.
the fat. I just want meat. So I just buy the whole chunk and then cut my own strips. And so I did that tonight. And I think I got like 12 or 15 that we cooked up. And now I can refrigerate them and freeze some. And that's the next 2 weeks of meat. And you're talking about eating 2 steaks a day or whatever. Because of serving size, I'm going to cut many of those into 3 steaks. But that's kind of when you start counting macros and you start seeing food as currency, and every day I can afford this much. And if I eat a jelly donut in the morning, I've spent 80% of my calories for the day. And, I realized very quickly that I can't even get to all my protein, which I need to be healthy. I need to maintain good weight, good muscle mass. So it just teaches you how to treat your food like currency and just eat what you can. You'll quickly start looking past those bad options. You walk up to, it's like me. When I go to a convenience store, I don't even see the soda pop. It's like, it's invisible to me. I can't explain that, but I just walk right by it in the cooler and get onto the Gatorade, or I'm actually been off energy drinks for a few weeks, and that feels great too. Whatever it is I'm going to get that isn't a freaking Dr. Pepper, or Pepsi.
Yeah, see, I'm
Coke,
blind
whatever.
to the energy drink. I mean, the energy drinks have never, like same kind of thing. Like I know what you're saying. Like I just don't even know
they don't register. It's like they're cool. Maybe once every 3 or 4 years, I'm like,
I'm a diet soda guy, but I don't drink the energy drinks.
there you go. So yeah, same exact thing, because you learn that's not worth my currency, right? And you'll do that with fast food, and you'll do it with starting off just cutting milk, and cutting dairy products is a great place to just lose some weight. I think a lot of us eat way too much of that stuff. So anyway, long story short, start counting macros. I feel good. I can help you feel good, but really just look up a way to count macros and do that thing.
Yeah, mine's been terrible lately, but my app is, I got tired of MyFitnessPal. I use Chronometer, which I really like. I went through a bunch of them because MyFitnessPal just got so annoying with, like, they used to be everything was free, and then
they're
and I
locking a
don't
lot of
care
stuff
that
up.
there's, but it's so much, I know it's business. I get that, but it doesn't mean I have to deal with it if I can find something that's better and not quite as annoying. And Chronometer's been that for me. It's a terrible name because it doesn't give you the impression that, like, it sounds like it should be something else, but Chronometer is good. It's CR. I think it's like, I don't even CHR. I think it's CR. I do like, CRONOMETER. I like that one. But one of the things that counting macros, you don't need to, I think that a lot of people wait, and I haven't been lately, and I was a lot until the summer. You don't need to have the diets that are out there are all the ones that everybody wants to do, which I've done, keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, all of those things are restrictive diets. Like they just are. If you don't want to do any of those things, if you'll just, even if it's the end of the day, put your food in, you start to see, like, if you come up with a limit, like you say, I'm going to have 2,500 calories, and you start to see, like, God, that quarter pounder and fries just ate, that just took
Everything.
up 2/3 of my day or everything of my day. And I cannot eat again if I'm going to stay under this limit, which you're probably going to eat again. So you realize, like, I can't do that. And
Right.
you don't really have to change anything other than just being aware, and it'll make a huge impact.
Like the getting your resting energy, like how much you expend, right? Your expenditure at rest or whatever, and then doing the math. Like there's formulas out there to do it pretty easy. I like doing it by hand from the old school because the numbers do come up a little bit different, and sometimes you get a little food back. But honestly, if you said I can that 2,000 calorie limit, if you're between 150 and 250 pounds, like just use it. You don't even have to do the math, right? And then do the division by percentages of how much protein you want and fat and carbs. But like it doesn't.
Chris Lawyer, who writes JDFP Weight Room, is always, just look, it's, obviously calories in and calories out. It's very simple. It's not all of this other stuff. But the reality is you figure out how much protein you need and how many calories you can eat, and that nothing else matters. Like the fat and the carb, carbs are energy and all that sort of stuff. But like ultimately it comes down to, if you get enough protein and you keep your calories under control, like you'll be fine. Like that's all you have to look at. Everything else is simple. Everything else is kind of,
my kryptonite is tortillas, because I could eat 5 burritos a day and it doesn't matter what's in them. I can make a breakfast burrito. I can have a burrito for lunch. The flavor of a tortilla is like, I really need it in every meal. But it's 200 calories, and I know that. I know how much mine are. I think they're 210. And so I have to ask myself, like, is it worth 10% of my diet to wrap that egg in a tortilla? Because it's not. It never is. But
circling back to my level up, one of the things that struck me actually today, because it's funny that you mentioned this, one of the things that struck me today was I have not been doing meal prep because, I've talked about I don't work on Saturdays. And so in order to do that, that involves a lot of my game planning happening on Sundays. Well, Sundays when I would usually do meal prep. So now it's okay, do I want to spend my day off Saturday meal prepping? And that's not really what I want to do. So one of the things for me, as far as literally buying back your time, is buying the buying the pre-made meals is literally it's literally a buy back your time, so that I don't go to, I have fast food, but it's not, I won't go. I'm restrictive about not McDonald's, but Jimmy John's or the salad bar at the Publix, and those still aren't great, but they're just in my mind. It's at least it's not that fast food.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Yep. We haven't had McDonald's since 2014. So
yeah,
my family's been a long time without it. All right, man. Got everything knocked out here. Let's pay the bills one more time and let's go.
Check out joedanielfootball.com/rules for 40 Coach Simple rules that'll help you win a football game. Coach Simple philosophy, practice planning, game planning. I can't remember what all is in there, but drills, drill philosophy, how to create your drills, stuff like that. You'll find just little tips, tricks, tactics, strategies. One of those is going to help you win a football game. So check it out at joedanielfootball.com/rules.
Awesome. You know what? I'm going to throw yours out there. Go to JDFB and sign up because you get game film analysis. I got to do my very first game film analysis a couple days ago as an analyzer, which is a very weird term to put on there, but whatever.
I think
an analyst. Yeah, I like it. And guys, there's so much little stuff you can overlook in film because you don't want to upset your position coach, or you're looking at the big picture because you're a coordinator or whatever. There's so many little things that game film analysis can help you out with. If you're very young in the game, JDFB is set up so that the team can use it, and that's how you should talk to your coach into getting it. But once they do, sit down and listen to that, because whoever it is, Joe or Con or me or whoever else is doing the game film analysis these days, the stuff we're going to give you is just the basics. And if we can see it, then that means you aren't doing the fundamentals right every single time, right? If I have to get into a video and I kind of don't see anything wrong here, well, that just doesn't happen. I told the guy this week that I did, dude, you sent us a freaking clinic tape on the 3-4 in the JDFB system. But also, here's the things that went wrong. And it's always the same stuff, right? Setting the edge, force guys going underneath, you're not gap sound, not number sound. So get into game film analysis at joedanielfootball.com. Which cells are opening and closing, sir?
No idea.
That's awesome. Well, social media wise, I got it. I understand. Whatever. If you sign up for the 40 simple rules, then you'll
know about it. Yep.
You'll get emails for what's going on sale. I on Twitter am at Coach Chambo. Okay. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. My website, I'm still in the designing. It is up. You can go look at it and laugh at me because I don't know what happened. I grew up in the technology age, but I never got into coding and making websites, and now it's showing because now I want to be a business guy with a website. So chamberlainfootballconsulting.com. The biggest one for me right now is Patreon, patreon.com/chamberlainfootballconsulting. I have added some more tiers. If you need an additional football coach on your staff, talk to your admin about a PO for a guy to watch and help you game plan. I can help you break down this week's defense. Your opponent, both sides of the ball. I don't care. Get on there, check out the tiers. There's one covers helping you self-scout, one covers just the opponent scouting, and then I think the other tier does both. I don't really know. I just set them up. I don't know what they actually say. Go check them out. And then there's a lot of other little tiers if you want to get in there and jump in. Those are just going to help feed my family this winter. No big deal. When in the age of inflation, I had to find a way to cover the inflation gap. So patreon.com. And then also I'm on YouTube. Joe, where can we find you, good sir?
You can find me on Instagram at joedanielfootball, facebook.com/joedanielfootball, and joedanielfootball.com. And some other places, but who cares?
If you Google Joe Daniel Football, you're going to find it.
Most of the time, at this point, if you Google a lot of things, you're going to find me.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's pretty annoying now.
In fact, if you Google best defense in high school football,
you will.
Joe Daniels 425.
No, actually, it's going to be a list of 5 defenses.
There we go. podcast at the FBCP. If it's your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, especially Spotify and Apple Podcast. Been listening for a while, please leave a review, especially at those two places, because that's where coaches come to find us. And guys, we want to spread the word. We want to help other guys get good at everything. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. And remember, coach simple, play fast, win.